Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSPmagazine. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
Marco.
Sean.
We've partnered on a lot of things. I don't know how many years, over a decade together we are running.
I don't want to date myself
magazine
right now.
Yeah, we won't date a few days doing this. And you've been gracious enough to join me at some of the big security conferences. Many years covering those events like RSA and Black Hat. ITSPmagazine was born at Black Hat, actually. And we've branched out to cover technology. And there's a big technology event that's been going far longer than I've been in security. and our guest today, I don't want to date him, but he's been attending that event for a long time as well. And it's a cool event. It continues to grow and expand in topics and reach, and a lot of cool things happening this year. And Charlie Fink is participating as a speaker there, part of the panel there, and leading a panel, actually, I should say. And of course, writing about the event, as he's done for a number of years. Consumer Electronics Show is what it's called, CES, people know it as. And I'm excited to chat with Charlie about his session and about the broader, where have we come from and where are we headed, does he think, in terms of advanced technologies and its connection to society.
And Charlie,
thanks,
we don't have an
thanks,
entire
Marco.
day.
I know. We have.
I know this is the problem with being a geezer. When you ask me a question, it could go on for quite a while. I will say this is my 31st or 32nd CES. I've been every year since probably 1991. I took some time off, about 7 years, sort of right around the time the smartphone took off. But I came back as a writer, and I'm a college professor and a podcaster. My weekly podcast, This Week in XR, comes out every Friday. I co-host with Roni Abovitz, who's the founder of Magic Leap. So he's kind of famous, and it's become quite popular. We cover tech broadly with sort of a bias toward extended reality, but I would say now we talk about AI more than anything. And that, of course, is the topic of the panel that I am moderating for Digital Hollywood on Monday. We have a bunch of terrific entertainment and technology people up there, or people involved with entertainment technology. And everyone has got a perspective, including Google and Paramount Global and HTC. It's a good panel. And we'll see how people are applying AI to their businesses and where they think we're going now in the post-strike world. So interesting topic. It's one Digital Hollywood. They put a lot of great people together, but then they put you together on stage. So I think there's 7 or 8 people on our panel, and we've got 40 minutes. So I don't know. You do the math. Everybody gets to speed talk for 6 minutes. But it is an interesting topic, and I'm looking forward to what everyone has to say.
For a strike that lasted that long, 5 over 6 months almost. I think concentrating the whole topic in 40 minutes, it's going to be a tough one. But I'm gonna throw another challenge at you. If you can concentrate a history of CES in 5 minutes.
Well, sure. Sean called CES the Consumer Electronics Show, but it actually is the Consumer Everything Show. Because everything has got electronics in it. They got refrigerators, they've got cars, they've got, International Harvester is there, John Deere. And so it's all sort of a unified whole in a way. And what it does for me is it sets the year. I see what's coming in, what's going to be introduced. We're seeing this wave of, for example, a new wave of video smart glasses that have been positioned as a smartphone accessory. Well, we saw that, from TCL and Ray Neo and XReal and others are Rokid. These are, $300 glasses that plug into your smartphone. So instead of watching a 6-inch screen, which is like a 5% of your field of view, unless you hold it really close to your face, it throws up a 200 or 300-inch big screen HD TV, HD-ish. But, if you want to do some productivity at Starbucks and you unroll your keyboard and look up in the sky, I just think that's so cool. It's not great for that. I don't see people doing that yet. But if you're walking the dog and you want to watch the ball game or something, I have been waiting for this for a long time. I don't know how big it's going to get, but a lot of these products, have gotten great reviews this fall. And hope I'll find out at CES how people are feeling about their performance and where they're going next year with this. I would never have guessed when I started covering AR 8 years ago for Forbes that this would be the way that AR finally made its way into our lives, simply as a kind of wearable television set. But there we are.
And I want to, because the other word in the name of the event is consumer. But I think my experience in advanced technology is that it often hits some business world first. And we can probably look to XR and AR, and that is certainly in the healthcare space.
No, that is, I think, a good insight. It is as much business to business as it is business to consumer. And much of the technology you see there, healthcare is one big example, and XR is another. But you see it all over the place. There's, high-end displays that would only be purchased by a professional. There are, you see these giant industrial drones or stuff from International Harvester. Those aren't consumer products. People would only buy those products for their businesses. So there's a tremendous coverage of business to business, along with business to consumer and business to prosumer, because sometimes it isn't, really clear. So also a lot of products you see there are prototypes. They never actually end up on the market. Sony was famous for many years for doing that. They would have this pavilion there. I think they've taken that out of CES and they do it at South by Southwest now, where they have a pavilion showing you all of the research that their different divisions have been doing. And I saw a lot of extraordinary things that will never see the light of day. There's no business rationale for them, and they'll probably be surpassed by other technologies. But just shows you the scope of what people are thinking about at Sony. So I always learn a lot from CES, and usually never in a way that I expect.
And I'm going to add one more element, maybe if you agree with me. Like, we have seen it in cybersecurity, how the conversation with the government, the legislators, and all the people that are part now of this ecosystem that is our society pretty much. And I know that CES, because we get all the pitch from companies and tell us who's there. There is government there. There is regulators. They are talking about AI. So we see that becoming as an integral part of our society. So it's not just the blinking lights anymore. We live with this stuff.
Sure. And if you look at a lot of the keynotes that they have, they are not hard technology companies, but these are people from companies like, they've had people from drug companies and people from automakers. And so it is hugely relevant across a lot of different categories. And as you said, it's a lot of marketing of, their current businesses and, trying to, the government is there because they want to understand the business agenda for the coming year. And businesses are interested in anything that has to do with potential regulation. So those are all questions that CES has gone from essentially being for computer salesmen to evolving into this, as I said, cultural event. And I think you rightly point out that it's not just a cultural event, it's a business to business event. It's a business and government event. I mean, in 2019, they had 180,000 people there. It was insane. You could not walk down the hallway at the Venetian, which is, 40 yards wide. So, obviously there's been a lot of attrition. Foreign travel has become more difficult and restricted because of health concerns. I think it's easing up, although a lot of COVID is going around right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if there were 150,000 people there.
Yeah, that'd be a few footsteps and quite a number of miles walked.
Yes,
that's for sure.
Yes. Be prepared to walk 10 miles in your most comfortable shoes.
Exactly. I want to go to this digital Hollywood because it speaks to AI and XR, and it says to streaming and advertising, and that last word catches me. I mean, obviously, everything is ad driven these days, it seems. But what are your thoughts with respect to advertising there? What's going on?
Hollywood has always been interested in consumer electronics, starting with technical people, and eventually, because it's become a cultural event, most of the technical people at the studios attend CES at least for a couple of days because there's cameras and other systems there that are relevant to them. And as you point out, policymakers and other businesses that may be adjacent to or related to their business. So, there are a lot of people there making deals. And of course, the future of advertising is a very, very important topic, as are streaming services. Now, Victor Harwood, who runs Digital Hollywood, has been doing this for 35 years. This is really his show to the extent, and much more hands-on and he does different versions of it all over the country and I believe the world. And, this is sort of his CES version. He has a close relationship with CES. He's been programming this sort of side show or complimentary show. It's an additional ticket a day or a couple days before the actual show begins. So it's really the hardcore people who are here to network and meet each other are always here a couple of days before with the writers and analysts, which is great. You see a lot of old friends, you have a lot of meetings, and then when the floor's open, you can, start running around and putting on the big miles. So I don't know. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, it does. What I would like to do is to go into, I know you've written a lot about the metaverse, and I want to pick your brain really quickly because it probably connect with what your panel talks about. But
2 years ago, the metaverse was the only thing we were talking about.
I know, that's exactly where I was going. Is now it's all AI, generative AI. I don't hear as much about the metaverse anymore. Are we distracted? It's in our hold. What's your point on that?
Well, first of all, the metaverse was not a very useful word. It was a hypey word, and everybody knew that word was going to go away. So the word going away overall is a good thing because it was very vague. It came from science fiction. It didn't really relate to 3D virtual worlds and how we access them. So the premise of the metaverse is more of the web is going to be more 3D more of the time. And that people will start to navigate larger portions of their social life and their economic life using 3D worlds like Fortnite and Roblox. Is that true? Well, I mean, again, you want to talk about things like advertising and, selling things. I mean, maybe, but, the 2D internet is also very good at that. So I don't know how quickly this is going to happen. It could be a question of successive generations. I know my college students don't behave the way we do necessarily. So that could be in the future, but it's a ways off. I do think that Meta wants to build a metaverse. I don't think they're calling it that anymore, but they want to build this connection of 3D virtual worlds through which you can move seamlessly, taking with you your identity and digital assets and social graph. But that's what they're trying to build. I don't think they've stopped trying to build that for VR. And I would say it's actually getting better. Again, a lot of the hypiness, a lot of the people who are there just because of the pandemic have left. That's bad, but the people who remain are more engaged. So it's entering a different phase.
Well, they changed the name.
The metaverse it's entering a different phase, and not calling itself the metaverse anymore. I mean, remember what everybody was saying 2 years ago, which is this is going to unfold over 10 years. And you know what happens when tech people say 10 years? They mean 20 years, right? 10 years, 5 years from now, it's still going to be 10 years.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, the metaverse it's an interesting idea that we really won't know about for at least 5 years, whether it's still there and whether it will ever really be that relevant. I mean, it's relevant for people who do 3D collaboration, the people who are using NVIDIA Omniverse. So it's relevant to them. If you want to call that the metaverse, some people would, some people wouldn't. So there you go. That was part of that word. The problem with that word was that it was so completely fungible. It applied to everything.
Yeah, and it seems very similar to me in using the word artificial intelligence, right? Where it's so encompassing, yet
certainly
yet if you bring it down to even just like generative AI, where its sole purpose at the moment is to generate written word and images and potentially videos in the future, if not already. And if you look at even just like ChatGPT, within it, you have specialized bots, right, that do special things within that space. And I think that's probably, if I'm not mistaken, what we're seeing in the world of metaverse, where I'm thinking digital twins is an example, where we can actually see it's a very focused thing where we're seeing a particular area in health or in manufacturing or in architecture and engineering.
I mean, again, that's 3D content. So, and we're viewing it in a 2D context, which I think is really cool, right? So you bring images up on your computers, you could spin them around, look at them from every angle. Obviously in medicine, that is huge. They can actually take a CT scan and map it exactly proportionately and anchor it to the patient. So, doctors now know in a surgery where exactly to cut before they were often inaccurate. So that's just one example of how, they use surgical planning. They do surgical planning in VR. I don't know if you followed that story about a year ago. There were co-joined twins at the skull, and they had neurosurgeons from all over the world collaborating on how to visualize and how to approach it surgically. And it was a 24-hour operation with 2 teams of surgeons, and then they saved those kids, which is a great story about how technology, remote collaboration, and medical science could come together and take the best from each of those technologies to do something that couldn't be done before. So I think that sort of thing is going to get better and better. And again, as you guys pointed out, that's entirely in the business world. That's not something consumers know about, or nor should they. But yeah, I mean, you have giant companies like GE. They're there with jet engines. I mean, this is the Consumer Electronics Show? I don't think so. It's the tech conference of the universe.
Oh, yeah, and you got space, and we just had a conversation about food, robotic,
food tech. Right, there are boats there.
Tourism.
Boats,
it's
bikes,
touching
motorcycles.
It's touching everything. Let's take the last couple of minutes that we have to maybe focus a little bit more on your panel, because I think that's fascinating. To again, with Hollywood, everybody was paying attention to that AI avatar using people images and all of that, and now I'd like to see what do you think is going to be this panel mostly focus on? Are they going to touch on that, or is
Hollywood? Hollywood is super data focused, right? We mentioned advertising. I mean, these things are measurable today,
right?
And what AI loves better than anything is data. So I can see how those companies, streaming services, television networks, movie exhibitors can, like and even airlines, optimize the price point, optimize sales on a fly, and maximize the value of that data, and perhaps infer things from it that they're not even yet thinking about. So that's a tremendous opportunity. There's obviously, you were talking about text to image and how it might affect the special effects and animation pipelines. It's possible they could streamline them. It's possible they could make them much better. So people are exploring those opportunities with great zeal. So I don't think anybody knows anything yet in particular, or has an application that's sort of broken through, because things are still in development and unstable. Anything you establish today is going to get reestablished and reestablished. So it's early going, but I think that's my prediction, the things that we're going to hear from them. Very helpful from a business perspective, from a product perspective, maybe. I mean, it's a very democratizing technology. It's going to allow a lot of people to make fake movies. The problem is they're not storytellers. They don't have access to the sound, which is so critical to convincing you that images are authentic and real. What it will result in probably is a zillion more videos on TikTok, or a change in the videos we watch on TikTok, or Reels, or take your pick, Google Shorts, or whatever they call their thing.
Yeah, YouTube Shorts.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is the makeup of the panel, because I'll start with the CAA, Creative Arts, right? So the story, right, and that story has to live somewhere. So it's going to live on some powerful piece of hardware. There's NVIDIA in the panel. That's supported by some infrastructure. That's Microsoft on the panel. That's presented through some interface. That's HTC on the panel. And the final result is the creative piece comes the actual content. That's paramount on that panel. So you get to have that conversation with what I feel is a very broad view of this ecosystem, which is pretty cool. Any thoughts on that?
Like I said, I'll be interested to hear what they all have to say. There certainly is a lot of different viewpoints and interests in the business. Certainly Microsoft and Google have very broad interests, and they have their own AI products, whereas companies like Paramount and people who work with talented CAA are trying to use it for to improve for process improvements, as well as data analysis. They have data as well, but it's different kind of data than streaming services have, for example. But it applies across multiple layers of those businesses for those giant companies, and then there's giant and there's giant, right? I mean, Microsoft is many times bigger than Paramount, for example. So, and of course, CAA is not really a company as much as an alliance of representatives of talent. So anyway, it should be a great panel. It's, as I said, it's a bit big to have what I would call a conversation, but we did last year have a very, very spirited conversation about AI. If you remember the moment, supposedly everybody at Google was running down the hall with their pants on fire, trying to catch up with Microsoft and ChatGPT. And Aaron Luber was meekly saying the corporate party line, which is, Google's been an AI company all along. So, which is what everybody was saying about the metaverse before it. But I joke at Aaron and Google's expense, but I do think this is a really important inflection point, which makes this conversation so topical, right? We treated the metaverse was a big deal. That was just 1 year. But now AI is a big deal 2 years in a row. So it could be a big deal. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. And it's like when we have our conversation and our panel, our goal is to make people think about what is coming up and where we're standing now. So I don't expect in 40 minutes to exhaust the topic, but it'd be interesting. I think it will be a lot of spinning of other type of conversation from there. So
yeah, of course,
this is going to be a quick reminder. It's going to be called Immersive AI XR AR Media Leadership, and it's going to be Monday, January 8th, 1:40 p.m. at the area level 1. That can find all this information in the notes under this podcast, or if you're watching the video. And Charlie, this was a great conversation. I would love to have you back in a more extensive conversation if you're ever up for that.
Of course.
And I want to thank everybody for paying attention. Follow more conversation we're going to have coming up in the pre-event for the CES Las Vegas 2024. Sean, Charlie, thank you very much.
Have a great one.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you learned something new and this story made you think, then share ITSPmagazine with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our columns. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.